to cover today. And so once again, let's get into the business. All right, so we're starting with, or let me start with this. Okay, so good evening and good day to you from whatever time you're joining us. This is another exciting moment. This is a NodeJS intermediate class, and it's brought to you by KodeCamp. At KodeCamp, we're looking to building a skill economy, and this is organized FOC. This is, to give you the opportunity for you to be able to scale up, to grow, to increase, to boost your skill. And this is a great initiative from KodeCamp. So if you just wanted to look into what authentication and authorization is, and you're joining us your very first video, we have tons of other videos, from the intermediate class, the beginner class on Node.js, and all the different stacks or aspects of learning. So you have the opportunity of going through KodeCamp workspace or KodeCamp on YouTube and checking out all the different videos that are here, and use it to. So without much ado, let's go into the business of today. Once again, I represent my humble self. My name is Benjamin Ifenudu. I'm a software developer, experienced with the MEN and .NET full stack, and I'm accessible at the KodeCamp workspace on Slack at Aerosoft. I'm not alone. I also have here my own buddy, a KodeCamp mentor, Prosper Eraruke, and he's a backend developer, experienced with Node.js, MongoDB, Express.js, and TypeScript, and he is also accessible at Prosper.js on the KodeCamp workspace on Slack. So today, I want to start first of all by looking at what we talked about in our last class. That will be a preamble as to what we're going to look into for today. So let's just have a very quick dash through that, because there are a couple of concepts we're still going to use today. So let's just have a quick dash through that. So last class, we looked at cryptography. We understood, we took our time to understand the concept of hashing and encryption. And then describing it, we said that in encryption, basically what you have is you have a plain text, and you are looking to make it become a ciphertext. And a ciphertext is basically some scrambled, meaningless, or randomized looking, piece of text which any other person will not understand. And this is done using an algorithm. So you use an algorithm to create a ciphertext. Now, there are different types of algorithms, as we saw. And I said today we're going to be looking into one of those examples. So there are different types of algorithms, as we saw. And while you want to convert from plain text to ciphertext, the purpose is that you should be able to convert it back to the plain text. You don't want another person who's not the intended user or the intended reader or the intended recipient to be able to decode it to plain text. So because of that, apart from just having an algorithm that can make it go to ciphertext, and then also an algorithm in a backwards fashion now to convert it from ciphertext to plain text, we also need to add a key. So this key is what makes it difficult. So unless even if the other person, maybe a hacker or someone else, has or knows the algorithm and has the setup, if the person doesn't have the specific key, then it's very difficult, especially if the algorithm is good. Okay, so generally that's what we looked into, and we said today we're going to be looking at this in practical terms of encryption and decryption. And we said that encryption and decryption is a two-way function. You encrypt and you decrypt. You encrypt for the purpose of decrypting. So anything that's encrypted is expected that you can decrypt, and you can encrypt any sort of different sorts of data. You can encrypt text, you can encrypt pictures, images, files, so there are so many things that you can encrypt. Now, going forward, we looked at, okay, this is just a simple example. You have plain text, it's encrypted, it's mumbled up into something that any other person over the network cannot read. And then when you get to the intended recipient. The recipient is expected to have the same key with which the recipient then uses the algorithm to decrypt the plain text. And then, yes, you have what was here becomes what is here. Now, the difference, on the other hand, we looked at hashing. And we said hashing is basically a one-way traffic. There's no return, there's no going back. Once you hash something, there's no going back to what it was. So the concept in hashing, as we looked at in the previous class, was that when you hash something, you want to make it difficult for anybody to be able to get back to the original. And our case scenario we looked at is, what if we have, for example, someone who breaks into a database and sees all the usernames and passwords of that are stored in the database, while whoever it was has broken into the database doesn't really stand any much difference, because if you could break into that site, then obviously you have all the things that you might have needed to break into that site. But many a times users use the same combination. You have the same username and password likely for many different applications or different sites. So you want to make it so hard for anybody to be able to receive or see those credentials, even if they can break into it. So that's why it's a one-way traffic. So if you missed the last class, please go back to it. There's a whole lot of explanation I can't cover in the, just a refresher, but if you missed the last class, go back into it so that you can understand the concept. So today, we're going to be looking at authentication and authorization. And before we go into that, we'll try to close out what we started with hashing. So that's why I have to bring us back into that. And we'll move a little bit into authentication and authorization. However, it's not going to be a theory class. It's going to be more practical. So please stay with me as we go through it. And in the next class, I would then try to give you piece by piece a thorough understanding of some of the things you need to know about authentication. Talking about cookies, talking about sessions, talking about refresh tokens and all of that. That theoretical concept that you need to know. I will bring that in the next class. But for today, we have a lot to wrap up with from the last class and then move into today. So let's jump straight into the code. All right. So as we have, what we have here is we've been looking at working with an inventory API, and basically what we do with the inventory API is we are doing some basic CRUD operations. So first off, we started with having an item. Okay, so we first of all started with having an item, and with that we've done the CRUD for the items. Now we're going to be moving further from the basic CRUD. We're going to be moving further to, I think I can close this so that, let me close, okay. So we're going to be moving from basic CRUD, we moved over to having a user. And in having a user, one of the things we realized is when we create a user, it returns some sensitive information, which is the password, for example. So we don't want the password to show when it is returned. So let me start by testing what we currently have, and they will build up. Okay, so let me close this. Let me see that everything is working before we go into today's build up. So npm dev. Okay, so waiting for database. All right, so we're on localhost for 5,000. So let me check how we have this. Okay, for users, we have API/user. Okay, so let me see if we have a user. Do we have a get method for the user? Let me check if we have such routes. Okay, so we just have only for sign up. So we've done only for sign up as of now. So let's do a sign up and let's see what we are returning. So we did sign up in the last class, and from there, okay, so /API/u is it user or users? Let me confirm. Okay, users /users what do we have in the route /sign? Okay, just this. There's no. All right. So with this, then we have Joy Validator, and it's there to make sure that we do some validations to be able to meet up. So let's say, for example, we have our first name. Okay, so we have first name, and for the purpose of today, let me just mumble up a good first name. So let's say we have first name John. Okay. What else? We need last name. All right, let me just copy this from the controller so you can save us time. What do we need? First name, last name, email, and password. Okay. Okay. All right. All right. So let me just paste this here. All right. So last name, or let's say Joe, John Doe. All right. So email, or let's say John Doe @gmail.com. All right. Then password. Okay. Let's just put John. Okay. So okay, then I think we should have a confirm password also. So let's just confirm. Yes, password length must be 8 characters. All right, so we have that from Joy Validator. So let's see, what do we have here? Okay, so we have confirm password and this bills. All right, so confirm password. So I said in today's class, I said I was going to show you some extra validations that you can do in case you want to maybe like check things like password strength and all that. All right, so yes, so as we can see, we see the password showing up here, which is a bad practice. The hash shouldn't be made available for someone who registers. Okay, so it's a bad practice. We'll see how to take that out today. But first of all, let's look at something we can tweak in the aspect of validations. So generally, when you want to check things like password strength, a lot of times you have some validations like this, and this is an example of how someone would want to use regex, okay, regular expressions to set up validation. So in some cases, you will see people use this long string, and this long string has so many things, okay, so many regex functions here. But the challenge is this doesn't give you a helpful step. If you notice, when I was trying to fill in the user information, it was showing me one after the other. The first thing you need is first name. The next thing you need is last name. And that will make it easier even for the front end if the front end wants to consume all the information that's coming from the back end or all the validations. So this would be a bad practice if you just use something like this. However, you have lots of developers using this, and well, that's theirs. Then in another case, you have different tests. Now this test here, all you will see here is if you run this test, so long as none of this, so long as these functions are not satisfied, it's going to return bad password and it doesn't help the user. So this is another example. And then if you then want to take your time to start, it has uppercase, and then you have a specific response for if this is not true, then you have a very long, stressful setup. You're going to take your time, spend your time doing this. So I'm going to show you a simple approach, and I think I should share my browser for that. So I'm going to show you a simple approach to what you can do. I'm going to show you a simple approach to what you can do to help you easily do this. Okay, so let me share. Let me have a new share. All right. So I'll share the screen. All right, so let me put this, in this new tab. All right. All right, so npm.js. So once you go to npm.js, there's a package that you can use to work with, Joy validation. So you already use Joy for validation, but we have another package that you can use. This is called Joy Complexity, or what's it called? Joy Password Complexity. All right. Now, so using this Joy password complexity, what it does is it returns a Joy, it returns a Joy object. Okay, so it returns a Joy object, and if we check what we've been using so far, in our validations, where is my validation? Okay, in our validation here, these are basically Joy objects. Okay, these are basically Joy objects, as you can see here. So this is going to return a Joy validation. So what we're going to do is we're going to install this Joy validation, okay, Joy password complexity, as a way of easily helping you go through this. So I'm going to just copy this and install this here. I'm going to copy this and just install this here. Okay. For those of you who are joining live, I am having a little bit of a challenge with the live situation. So just in case the class was to go off temporarily, I'm going to just look out on the Slack workspace. I'm going to notify you once I've resolved the light situation. Okay, so just permit me, please. Okay, so I'm stuck far away on mainland, and I couldn't get back to setting things up. All right, so we've installed the Joy validation. So what we want to do now is we want to import it now. So we're going to import Joy password complexity. I'm going to import this from that. And when importing it from that, you can import it as the whole, not the way it is here, the way it's looking destructured out of it. Okay, so let's import it as the whole, and then we'll use, okay. So apart from this, I want to set options. Okay, I want to set options. Or how do I call it? Let me use a different word. Let me call it complexity options. So I want to set up complexity options so that I can use the same validation in case I want to set up another, because I want to set up another use for it. So I'm not going to use it once, I could use it multiple times. So in the Joy validation here, you have a number of things or options that you could use. So let's just copy this. Okay, so let's just copy this here, and we'll basically see how we could use this. So let me see complexity options. Yeah. So let me just copy this, paste this here, replace this, and we'll see how we could use this. So this is the complexity options, and instead of us using, password here in this case with this predefined option, this is basically from Joy alone. What we are going to do now is we are going to insert this as the password complexity default. Okay, so we're going to use this as password complexity default here. So we're going to pass that option from the Joy, from the Joy password complexity. Okay, so let me just type this out here. So here I'm going to say Joy password complexity. This is calling what we've imported here. I'm going to pass in the complexity options that I've specified here. Okay, and I'm going to make it required, and like so. I'm going to make it required, and let's see what we have. The minimum should be 8. The maximum before was, what was the maximum we're using before? Let's just make it 50. Lowercase, we want at least one lowercase, one uppercase, one numeric, one symbol, and let's say the requirement count 4, though we don't quite need that. Okay, so let's test this out and let's see the difference. So we're going to test this out and we're going to see the difference. So just give me a second. Right. Okay, so we're going to test this out and we're going to see the difference. So this is like John Doe, and we already have this. So let's just make it Johnny Doe, so it's slightly different. And yes, so as you can see here, it says it should contain at least one uppercase letter. Okay, so let's make an uppercase. Let's make John one uppercase. And here you can see it should contain at least one symbol. So let's put a symbol here, or let's make this here. Then then okay, so we've been able to get that, and now the password doesn't match. So just make that match, and once we can make that match, then we're good. All right, so that's done, and you could check the documentation. Okay, check the documentation of this. So just npm JS, and then go over to join password complexity to see the options you could set, and this will make life a lot more easier for you because you can use this multiple times. So let's look at one more thing we want to look at. So currently we are returning password. We're returning our password as we can password here, which is a bad practice, and I'm going to explain like different ways different sites have tried to handle things like this. So let's go let me close the validation for now. So let's start by first of all saying you don't need this either. All right, so let's look at what we are doing here. So in this case here, when we create the user, we are returning the user as it came. Okay, we're returning the user as it came, and for that reason, you are returning everything as was saved. The one way you could do this is there are different approaches that you could do to this. So I'd like to go over some of the approaches you could do, okay, because you might need work and try to understand some things. So let's say we want to save this user. So let's say const save user is equal to await. So this is the saved user now who's coming in. Okay, so this saved user is equals to await. And now one approach you could do is you could decide to say, for example, new user is equal to, okay, so this new user is equal to, for example, you want to pick out some things from this saved user. So one way people do some way people do things is they could decide to say, let me just show you a rookie way. Okay, so you could decide to say, what are the things we have in the user? So we could say save user dot first name, save user dot this, and that, maybe, or let's say they could say first name, for instance. Let me just do this. I'm not going to do all this. So let's say, for instance, now they could use this as a way of starting. So the first name is this is that, and everything, and then they return that. Now that's one way to do it, but it's going to be a lot of stress if you have a lot of things here in this case. So another approach that you could also have is you could decide to the structure from the saved user. Okay, so from the saved user, you have the particular value of what you've done in the underscore doc. Okay, so if I was to return the entire saved user now as a response now, it's going to show you all the information that comes from the database, including with something, and then the user would then be in the doc, in underscore doc, just as you have underscore ID. That's how you have that. So one thing you could do is you could use what we call the REST operator. Okay, so the REST operator basically is similar in appearance or in fashion to the spread operator. However, the difference, okay, the difference is that when you're using the REST operator, instead of you trying to spread something, you want to pick something out from it. And when you pick it out, then whatever remains is going to be assigned to this new value. And right now, the reason why it's showing me an error is because we already have something called password in this scope. So I want to use an if block to scope it. So I want to use an if block to scope it to create like a scope where this doesn't give me an error. So I'm going to use an if block so that this password is no longer within the same scope of where I created passwords here and here. All right. And here we're no longer using confirm because we are doing that right from joy. So we no longer need confirms from the request body. So here, so doing this is one way, and we could then decide to return user is the new user. So what this is going to do is it's going to remove the password from there. Okay, it's going to remove the password, and every other thing remains. So let's do this, and let's see the difference. Okay, so let me just remove one N so that we have a new journey. All right, so all right, so if I do, so as you can see here, the password is out. Okay, the password is out, and yes, that works fine. Okay, but another way or another approach is, because this is only happening here in the create user method. If I was to try to get the user, okay, if I was to try to do a get request to get the user, the password will still be there. So in such cases, you might then say, okay, I don't want to have to go on to keep the structure in over and over again. So what I'm going to do is, let me turn it off from the model. So if you want to turn it off from the model, you can do this in, so whatever it is that you don't want to appear on request or anytime you're getting a response from the database, you have a method which is select, and you can set it to false. Okay, so you can set is to false, and if you do set it to false, okay, if you set it to false, by default, it's not going to show. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to return this back as, or I'm going to return this back as, I don't need this any longer. Okay, so I don't need this any longer. I don't need this any longer. I don't need this any longer either. All right, so just the user now. And doing this here makes the user, okay, so it makes the user available. So I've turned this off here from the model, okay, turn this off here from the model. So let's go and let's do this again, and we're running out of journeys. So let's put 2 ends this time, okay, let's put 2 ends this time. All right. All right, so doing this, what did I do wrong? Okay, what did I do wrong? I'm seeing the password here. Just give me a second. Let me check what I did wrong. Oh, password. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. Let me just return what I have saved. Okay, because I'm returning the entire user, and the password is part. So let me return what's coming back from the database. All right. So instead of this, let me return saved user. So this is giving me the response from the database, while this one is giving me the response as what I haven't yet saved. Okay, so that was just what was wrong there. So yet another N, and there are going to be so many journeys on this database. All right, so let me see. Am I in the right place? User model, yes. Good, yes. Oh, sorry. This works in the find method. I'm not looking for something. This works in the find method. I'm not looking for something. Okay, so for this, for the purpose of this, it works for the find method. Permit me, sorry about that. It works better for the find method. So for this, I'm just remembering why I had to like specifically mention this method. Okay, so for this, it works particularly, that select works for the find method. So for now, what we use this, and let me quickly do a login. Okay, we're going to use this for this method, and let me do a login. And when I do a login, we'll see that that's an operation. So let me just quickly set up what we have here. We have our export const sign up. So let's quickly do a login. So let's quickly do a login, export const login. So login or sync request response. Okay, that works when you are looking for something. So it's basically a find method. So let me just go straight to finding something first. Let me just go straight to finding something first. And what do we use in finding? Okay, so let me just pick this find one. So login. All right. So when you want to log in, most times you use find by ID, or you use the user's ID, not the email. So let's do find by ID, and we will then pass in the ID. So how do we pass in the ID? There are many approaches to how you could pass in the ID. Okay, so you could pass in the ID as either from the post method you request the body, or you could pass in the ID by using parameters. Okay, so for me, I particularly like using, I prefer using the body because you want to then pass in the email and password. Okay, so let's do email and password. So let's say const email and password. Okay, I'm actually trying to rush to see how we could cover it up before my system plays a hard one on me. And I had an issue with my system, so it's just in time. So I had an issue with my system, I had to go fix it. In the process, I got stuck in town. So, all right. So here, yeah. So we want to do some validations, and I really don't have time for validations right now. So I'm just going to copy some validations. So let me just copy some validations that we could use here. Okay, so we could use this validation. Okay, and let's set up some validation for login. So I'm just going to do this. So what do I call it here? Validate login. Okay, so I'm going to do this here, validate login. Okay, so what we want to do here is just to validate the user on login, and here we just want to receive the email and the email and password. We don't need to confirm password. We don't need the complexity either. Okay, we don't need the complexity either. So we could probably just use this. Probably just use this. Okay, or probably just use this for the stats. Okay, we just use this for the stats, and just so that we are not having, you know, like all manner of data thrown in. Okay, so just use that for the stats. All right, so we've gotten validation out of the way, export validate login. Okay. All right. So after this, if there's an error, okay, throwing the message, then yes, we want to check if, so we're receiving this from the request body, and we want to check if this user exists with this email. So if the user exists, we want to then check if the user how do I put it now? If the user doesn't exist, we want to then check, first of all, does the user exist? And if the user doesn't exist, that. So first of all, what I want to do is I want to test this. I want to test this route. Okay, I want to test this route. So let's see what I was trying to explain before. Let's us rest.json. For now, we know the user exists because we're going to be using one. Okay, so let's just rest.json user, and let me do it like this. Okay, so I just want to send this. So I just want to send this and use this for login route. So I'm going to set up this exported login. Okay, so I'm going to set this up in the route. So let me pick this from here, login. Okay, so this is also a post method, and I want to make this login and call this login. Okay. All right. So once again, sorry about the hiccup, and yes. So let's pick up from where we were. So what we were doing before that slight break is we were trying to do a login, login function, and we wanted to check what we were getting as our user. Okay, so we've done this setup here in the user model. In the model, we've done this select false, which is basically this is like basically to turn off the password. So whenever you're getting something from the database, the password shouldn't be part of the things that return. Okay, so we want to test that out. So we basically exported that, and in the user route, we are calling the method, we're calling it to the login route. Okay, so let's do that. So what do we need? Let me just copy this object and come over here. So this will serve as the basis. This will serve as the basis for our login. So let me just create this. So we only need the email and password. Done some validation. So we only need the email and password. And we have so many Johns, so we'll just pick one. And it's a post method. We're going to localhost 5 login, and let's see. Okay, so let's see. Okay, I haven't. Is this still running? Not running. Not running. It just crashed. So let me save that. Restarts. Okay, so I have any reference validate login is not defined. Okay. Here exported as validate login, but in the controller I haven't imported this. So let me do this now. Validate login. Okay. All right. Okay. So. All right. Okay. So here. So here we are getting back the user. Okay, so we're getting back the user. This is not the login method. Okay, this is just to check what we are getting back. And as you can see here, you can see that the user, we're getting back the user here, but the password is not available. Okay, the password is not available. So that's where the select false is coming into play. However, it also, why this is good, it also poses a challenge, because what we want to do now is we want to do a comparison. This is where big crypts now we're going to use to compare to see what we have. So generally, when you receive a user, the first thing you want to check is if there is no user. Okay, so if there's no user, you first of all return a false. Okay, so let's say if there is no user, let me just pick this error, just pick this error message and use it here again. All right, so if there is no user, okay, that's if the user is no, there's no user, then you should return
let's return a message saying invalid credentials. Okay, so invalid credentials. So what this is doing is if the email is wrong, okay, so you don't want to tell the user exactly what is the case, so we're just returning invalid credentials. So let's have that first, and this is a return statement we need to get here. So let's have that first, and let me just move this up, okay, so that we don't have a user that exists. See that? Okay, yeah, great. That captures that. The next is if we found the user, remember we've used bcrypt to hash the password, okay? So after using bcrypt to hash the password, we then we said we cannot go back to what the password was before. So this time we want to do a comparison to see, okay, if bcrypt picks in the same information, which now is the password the person has created. After picking in this password, okay, after picking in this password now, we want to compare the password that is coming in from the user, okay, with the hash password, okay. So that's what you want to do now. So if both of them match, like we said, there should be a definite. It's a definite process, okay. So if both of them match, it is on that basis that you now say, okay, yes, then this is a valid password, okay. So we're going to use a bcrypt compare method, and it's something we can see on npm.js, but for time's sake, I would just do this. I would say const valid password is equal to, then we want to call bcrypt now to use it. Okay, so bcrypt, do I save it as bcrypt or bcrypt.js? Bcrypt, yes. So calling on bcrypt now, and I want to use the compare method. So this compare method takes in two parameters. So the first thing it takes in is the string that is entering in afresh, and the next is taking in is the hash password, which is the password that's coming from the database. So currently, what we've been returning so far is this. What we've been returning so far doesn't have this password, because we have here that if we were to use this find method, we've commented, we've removed the password. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first of all turn this. Okay, let me do this. Let me just bring this up first. Okay, let me just do this. Bring this up here, and I'll show you what I'm getting towards. So I'm going to put the back here, and let's return the user. So yes, we return this user, but the password is not available because we have select false. Okay, so what we want to do now is forget about the error. This error is because I don't have the password, the second method here. Okay, the second parameter here. So now I want to then include the password. So I'm going to chain a select to this user.find. After you find the user, then you have the select, which is a method available on MongoDB, and you want to then add something that you want to include. Okay, so a field that you want to include. So I remember that the field we turned off here in this password, the field name is password. So I want to include this. So you use plus or minus. You use plus when you want to include, you use minus when you want to exclude. So if I do this now and I run this again, it's going to then include the password field. And that's just for the purpose of we want to have it available. So you can see this now. You see the password field is available now. Okay, so the password field here is available. So I'm including this here because I want it to be able to get the user.password. So I want to say user.password. So if this user is available, all right, if this user is available, then I want to do, okay, I'm not returning this now. So I want to then compare, I can turn this off now. All right, so I want to then compare with the user.password, which is the hash password that is stored in the database. So I want to do the comparison. So this is going to return a Boolean. The Boolean is if it matches, true. If it doesn't match, false. So let's first of all, let's just return what we have. Okay, so let's return valid password here. So we see if it's valid or not. So I'm just trying to take this slowly so that we understand the concepts. So let's see. Okay. All right. So as you see here, it's showing valid password. Okay. Valid password. Let me do this. Sorry, let me do it in a different way. Let me do this in a different way. Let me change this first of all. It's supposed to return something different. Let me make the password not valid. Let's see the difference. Okay. Coming. Okay. Just give me a second. Okay. The challenge is this is a promise. Okay, this is a promise. It's a promise, so it's something that I need to await. Okay, so it's returning in. So I'm actually trying to call the value before. I'm trying to call the value before it goes. Okay, so this compare function. So I'm going to wait for it to show up. That's basically what was happening. So let's do this again. Let's see. All right, so we can see here. So we have false, and if I go back and put whatever sign was there, let me just do Control and Z. So here you see it is true. Okay. All right. So it's so basically working with hash or anything. There are basically promises. Async awaits. You need to use that or use promises. Use .then, whichever way you're doing that. So yes. So now we could then say if the password is not valid. So I'm just going to copy this and use this again. So if not valid password, return the same thing. So wherever it is that doesn't have rights or access will be confused, not knowing if it is the email that is wrong or if it's the password that is wrong. You don't want to, make somebody find an easy way to break into your system. So if not valid password, return that. And then from there, we can then say, yes, anybody that passes through this process up to this point is a valid user. So what then do we want to do? We want to, at this point now, create a token. So we want to create a token. We want to create a token, and this token, we're going to be using JWT token. So first of all, I'm going to create a token, and I'm going to show you how it works. Okay, so I'm going to first of all create a token, and I'm going to show you how it works. So for us to create a token, we need to use a package called JSON Web Tokens. Okay, so let me share my browser so that I can show you JSON Web Tokens. Okay, so it is my browser. All right. All right. So just web tokens, this time around is not for hashing. This is for encryption. So this is where we have the whole encryption with different algorithms set up. So we're going to look at this, and with that, we will then test how to decode this. We will then test how to decode this. All right. So first off, we have two methods that we are going to use in particular. The first method is the JWT.sign. Then the second method is to verify. Okay, so let's just install this. Let me set this up. Let me just copy that, save me stress. All right, so for us to do this, we're going to need to create the key, which is basically an environment variable. Okay, we'll create a key and we'll store it in environment variable. We don't want to have it exposed on our code base, so that's why we're going to do that. So thinking of a name, let's just say user underscore JWT or now secrets. Okay, JWT secret. Okay, so this could be anything. Okay, this could be anything. You could just play around and everything. By the end of the day, to make it more secure, most times, what I like to do is I like to just pick some confusing string like this. I'm going to just use this for instance as my secret. So I'm going to use this string as my secret, and this should work. So I'm going to use this as secret, and let me check that I have .env. Okay, do I have .env available here? I don't have it here. So let me import .env and make it accessible so I don't have to do this in every single file. Okay, so .env from. So I just want to make .env available throughout the whole application, so I don't have to do the configuration in every single file. So let me just do this here. Spell that properly. Okay, so I don't have to import this in every single file. So that's just purpose here. And another thing we're using soon, I'm going to explain that we're using cookie parser so that we could pass the cookies. Okay, so here. All right, so let's go back here. So what we want to pick from here after installing is we will import this, and when we import this, we would then use jwt.sign. We're going to put in the payload, what we want to add, the secret or private key, and then if you have options or callbacks, you could also include that. So we're going to start with just a simplistic example. I'm trying to look for if we have something very simple here. Okay, so let's just use this, but this is a require statement. Let's just copy this, and this doesn't just go. Let me just import it at the top. All right, so import for JSON web token. Wait, all right, then let me just close this up. All right, then here, what I want to do now is I want to assign something here. So after you've confirmed, okay, you confirm that the user is who user should be. You then want to do the jwt.sign, and the first thing you have there is going to be the payload. Okay, so the first thing you have there is going to be the payload. So we could then say this is the first option here is the payload, and here now would be the key we want to use. So I want to use process.env to pick out the environment variable I want, and let me see if it's going to bring it out for me. Okay, it's not bringing it out for me. So let me just pick it from here. So user secret. Okay, like this. All right, then the payload. So the payload is basically anything that you make available here. Okay, anything that you make available here, that's going to be the payload. So if you look at this here, it says it takes in two methods. The first is the payload, which could be a string or an object, then your secret or private key. Okay, so what you might want to pass here as a payload may be, for example, something like the user ID. So you could say the ID is equal to, then let's say we've gotten the user, you could then say user._ID, which is going to give us the ID of the user. So this is a good start, for example. Okay, so this is a good start, for example, of the information you want to get. I don't like the way this is breaking up. Do this like this. All right. All right. It looks better like this. Now, after you've created the token, you want to then send the token as a cookie, for example. So today we'll start with cookie, and in the next class we'll look at in the next class we'll look at having session ID. Okay, so we're going to start with that, and in the next class we. All right, so the next class we're going to look at that. So let's install a new package. We're going to use a package called Cookie Parser, and just want to show you what is like Cookie Parser. So this, okay, not that. All right, so we're going to be using this package, Cookie Parser, and basically all we'll just be doing is we'll install it, and we're not going to do any complex setup. It's very easy to set it up. So all you just need to do here is you go to your index.js. You want to use it available. So let me first of all install it. Okay, and then here I want to import Cookie Parser. So let me import Cookie Parser in this form from Cookie Parser, and all I need to do is just to do an app.use. Like to have this down. Okay, so all I need to do here is just as I have my app.json, I'm going to do app.use, and then I'm going to call what I want to use. Okay, so I'll just say Cookie Parser and initialize it like that. Okay, so that's all there is to it. You don't need to do any complex setup. That's all there is to it. All right, so after doing that, I can then use the cookies here. So I'm going to say request, okay, or rather response now. So I want to send the cookie as a response so that it's going to be available within the system. So you can use a cookie, or you can send what you call it. You can send a cookie, or you can send it as a session ID. So in the next class we'll look at sessions, but for today we just use cookie to make life easy for us. Okay, so I'm just trying to change methods of what I want to send so that I don't forget that. All right, so when you want to send a cookie in Cookie Parser, you need to define the name of what you want to send. Okay, you need to define the name of what you want to send, and you then will send what you want. Okay, so here I'm going to define the name as it takes into parameters. Okay, it takes into parameters. So I'm going to call this auth token. So let's just call it auth token, and then I'm going to send token. Okay, so we're going to call it auth token. I'm going to send token, and what else do I want to send? We could send let's say a message. So success should be true. Success should be true. Or message should be sign in. Okay, successful. Let's just say login, logged in. Okay, so let's just say logged in successfully. All right, so logged in successfully, and this is supposed to be a try in the wrapped in a try and catch block. Okay, so let me just do a try catch and paste it in. All right, so try catch, and then if there's an error, I would like to console the log the error so that we can see. Console the log the error so that we can see. Okay, so error message, and I would also like to return from here. So let's just say rest dot status. Maybe you can do 500, but don't I have? Let me check if I have a custom error message already here. Okay, so all right, so let me just use this instead, save me time. All right, so So, okay. I'll just say login field. All right. All right. So, okay. So we'll just give this a try. So just give this a try. See how this goes. So let me check that this is still logged in. We're still signed in. All right. We're still signed in, and here there's login route. All right. So I think name and all is there. So basically, one thing I want you to note here is that as I was logging in, I'm going to clear this cookie, okay? As I was logging in, it shows here that I have a header here, only 9, but later on, it shows now that I have 10. So the cookie has been stored in and the token was generated. So what I would do now is I'm going to return the token this time around as part of the information that is coming in. So let me just add the token here so that we'll be able to see the details of the token. All right, so I'm going to add this token here. So I'm going to log in again, and can I clear this from here? Can I clear this from here? Let me see. Let me see. I don't have time to look into this, but let me see if I could. Let me see if I could just clear this out. Let's just log in again and we'll see the difference. Okay, so this one ends with XZXO, and here I'm logging in again a second time, and here this one ends with PTNU, and you see here it ends with PTNU. So this is the token that has come, and the token has been updated. Okay, so this is the token that has come, and the token has been updated. So I'm going to show you what I was talking about in terms of JWT. So I'm going to go over to jwt.io, and this is where I'm going to show you the difference between hashing a password and encryption. So this is jwt.io and JSON Web Tokens generally. And this is where you can try to debug. So currently here, I have here currently an example here. So what they're doing basically here is I'm going to clear this off and put the token that we got here, everything from here. So I'm going to copy all of this from this token and show you that, like we said, it's a two-way thing, so it can be decoded. So before I go into verify, let's try decoding from here and you see for yourself. So here I have put in all the information, all the token. I put in all the token. So I'm going to try to see if it's possible to decode. So checking here, it shows you invalid signature. All right. So invalid signature. So I can't tell what information or what is here. So for me to be able to do this here, you will see that there is need for us to include the particular secret. So I'm going to go over to the environment variable and pick here the secret I used. So I'm going to copy this secret. Okay, so I'm copying in the secret I used in signing, and I'm going to paste it here. So in pasting it here, you then see one signature has been verified. All right, the signature has been verified, and you can then see the information that is here is the user ID. Okay, the information that is here is the user ID. So what if we wanted to add in more information? So let's see if we want to add in more information. So let's pick more information. Add in ID. What else do we have in the user? So we have ID. We have let's just for purpose, okay, just for the purpose of today, let's just add in email. Let's just add an email just for the purpose of today. You don't need to do this, but I just want to show you that yes, you could have other things here. So let's put an email, and the email should be user.email. All right. So user.email, and here. All right. So I'm going to go over again to login. Okay. going to go over again to log in, and all right. So in logging in, it gives me this information again. Picking this here, and I'm going to send it over to jwt.io. All right, so here, jwt.io, and you see in the payload, it gives me exactly what was coming in. So I have here the ID and I have here the email. So this is the payload, and the signature that I have here is the signature that I created. Okay, so that's the purpose of this all. Okay, so that's the purpose of this, just to show you that if you have if you have the token itself without the security key, you cannot have access. Just show you that the signature is not verified. So that's that. So let's go over to the verification process, which will be the start of our authentication. So right now, I'm going to take this off for today. I'm going to take this off. We're not looking into user roles yet or anything. So I'm going to take this off, and this is our login process currently ready and available. And let me do this. So let me just create one more for logging out. Okay, so it's easy for us to log out and test things to see the difference. So let's have request response, and okay, so basically what is a proof that we are logged in is that we have the cookies. Okay, so the cookies is a proof that you are logged in. If you were using session, the session would be a proof that you are logged in. So for us to log out, all we'll just be doing is we're going to be clearing the cookies. So we're going to send a REST to clear the cookies. Okay, we're going to send a response to clear the cookies, and just a simple process. Let's just say res.clear cookies. Am I getting this right? Clear. Okay, let me just check if I'm getting this right. Response to clear cookies, yes. Okay, so name, string, and the options. So name of that's all we need to do. The name of the cookie we want to clear. That's all I need to add here. And I could then chain other methods I want. So let's say status 200. Okay, and let's say the response is logged out successfully. Okay, so something like that. So all of this is just rough work because I'm rushing against time. Okay, so I can return also after this. Okay, so I can return after this, and this is fair enough. Okay, it's fair enough to do the work. Okay, so you can still have a try catch if you want, but you don't need it here. So I want to make this route available. So I'm going to call on logout method. I'm going to make this a get request because there basically isn't anything to attach to the body. So let me just say logout, and here logout, and that becomes available. Okay, so let me wait for the database. All right, have this here. So let's take notes. Here we have in the headers, we have cookies in the headers, and this is the token stored here. So I'm going to just copy this and have a get method to log out. I don't need to put anything in the body, so I don't need to open there. So here, so if I do this, it gives me the success. Oh, okay, that's supposed to be logged out successfully. Where is that? Logged out. Okay, log out success. Okay, or just make this sound more log out successful, login successful. Let me just make this sound a lot more robot-like. Okay, so all right. All right, so yeah, So if you look at the header here, you notice that the cookie is no longer available. If I go over here, the cookie is still available here. However, this is where we would then I'll show you that even though it's currently being cleared off, it's cleared off everywhere. Okay, it's cleared off everywhere. The user is not currently available. So if I come in here again, it's going to show me login successfully, give me the token. And then if I come out here to log in, to log out, it's also going to clear the cookies. Okay, so let's go over to a little bit of authentication for time's sake. We just touch a little bit of authentication for time's sake. So generally, for us to do authentication, authentication is done best as a middleware. Okay, it's done best as a middleware. So, what exactly is a middleware? A middleware is basically a function that we could use to, we could use to, let me just write it out so it makes a lot more sense. So let me just create a method. What do I call this? Authorize. Let me just call it authorize.js. All right, and let me call this authorized, const authorize. All right, it equal to, let me just assume it's going to be async or not. So what it does basically is it takes in request, response, and after it's done that, it goes next. So here, for example, you can import a middleware. So right now I don't have middleware set up. Okay, so I don't have it set up, but let me just export it just for the purpose of showing you what it could be like. Okay, now let me import authorize from middleware authorize.js because we're using import statements. Oh, God. All right. So you could have, for example, we can't actually use this here, but let's say, for example, you have a get method. So let's say you have a get method to get all items. Okay, so this would be maybe items here. Let's say, oh, I don't have a method to get all items. So let's do this elsewhere. To get all items already. So let's do this elsewhere. So let's, where is this? All right. So, all right. So let's say, for example, we have a method to get something, all right, to get maybe, for example, all items. You could use a middleware to say, do this first, and after you've done this first, then move over to the next, okay? Move over to the next function you want to do. And then you could then have multiple methods here. So a middleware basically takes in, okay, middleware basically takes in like a multiple function. So here I exported it like this. So that's why it's showing like this. I exported it as the part, not the full. Okay, so it will take in something, do something to it, and then it will return something. So we're going to use that in this get. We're going to use that here in get method. So this here is going to be our middleware. It takes in the request, does something to it, then we have the response. So currently, we have our user being returned as cookie. Okay, so being returned as cookie and is then stored as the user logs in. Okay, so we have a token. So what we want is we want to grab this token from the cookies. Okay, we want to grab these tokens from the cookies. So let's say const token, for example, const token is equal to request dot cookies, and the name of the token is auth_token. So let's just say we have that. Okay, so let's see if I can grab this like this. Okay, so let me see if I can grab this like this, and I want this to return this, and after that I want this to fall, so that this will work. So after this, I'm going on the next method, so this will work. Okay, so let me see, what am I trying? Where do I have it? I have it on get all items. I have it on get all items, and items is okay. So just forward slash items, API forward items. Right. So localhost 5000 API all items. All right. So let's see if we get all items. All right. So we get all items here, and as we're getting all items, it's showing me undefined. Okay, so it's showing me undefined, and I'll need to check why. So let's sign in again. Let's log in again. Okay, so logged in, and let me see if I have here. Let me see if I have this. All right. So as you can see now, the token is now available. Okay, so you can see the token is available here. Okay, so if I log out here, it clears the token, and then if I try to get the item, the middleware is going to run, but it's going to show me undefined because the token is not available. Okay, so let me do it again. So you see undefined because the token is not available. So what I want to do now is I want to log in again. So you see, so I'm going to log in again. So this is a new token, M1LC. You can see that at the end. So let's go again and log in. And you will see now that this here, M1LC. So this is the most recent token. So basically, yes, we can get it in this method. So after getting the token, what do we want to do with the token? So I showed you before how we could decode. Okay, I showed you before that we were using the JWT-IO to decode, and while trying to decode, we were needing to add the what you call it. We need to add the key. Okay, the secret key. The first thing is, let's say we don't have the token. Okay, if we don't get a token, we don't want the user to have access. Okay, so let's say, so first of all, if there's no token, all right, so if there's no token, or forbid user from having access, so let's return response. Let me just pick this from here. Let's see what is the best response, 400. So let's just return this. Okay, so and then this would be a 403 saying forbidding. Okay, so I'll just put this up, and what do we say here? Just say thinking of what we could just say. We could just say access denied. Okay, access denied. Access denied. Sign in. Okay, access denied. Sign in. Okay, so this is a good example. So this is a 403. We're just using this 403 for forbidding. And so at any point in time, instead of you not having anything, instead of you not having access to this, so let me log out to be sure that the token is cleared. So let me try. Yes. So this intercepts. So this middleware now has intercepted the process, preventing it from showing me the information, and it says success false, message is access denied, sign in. So if the user is not signed in, you cannot see it. Okay, so right now, I'm going to do this here to log in. So there's a token. Now, this token is not confirmed, but there's a token. Okay, so you see now it's escaped this. So we've not yet confirmed the token. So this is just to say, yes, there's a token. If there's no token, just tell the user directly. All right, so now we want to verify the token. So we want to verify the token. Okay, so verify token. So we could say const verified, for example, const verified is equal to, so here I want to use the same JWT. So let me just pick the import statement from the top. So we want to use the verify method that we saw there, right? Okay. So here, so I'm going to use jwt.verify, and the verify here, as we see, it takes in two parameters for a start. We have here the token you want to verify, which is a string, and the token you want to verify, which is a string, and then the secret key that you want to use. Okay, so let's just say token and the process.env. Okay, then let me just copy this out. Okay, so all right. So with this here, remember, we didn't await the other time, so let's not get into that again. We have to await this. So let's await this, and when it comes out, let's just console.log if it's verified. Okay, so I just want to console.log if it's verified to see first of all. So we already know the token is coming back. So let's just console.log if it's verified. So let us see. So right here. Okay, so is this verified? Yes, it is verified, and it is returning the decoded. Okay, it is returning what has been decoded. So generally, as you can see here, the way we saved it here in a controller, sign up, login. The way we saved it here in the controller, we saved it here. Where is it? Here. Okay. So we saved this here as the ID. Okay. So we had an ID, and the ID basically is a string. So that's what we had in the payload. And aside it also has an issues at. Okay, an issued at that comes by default. So that's the IAT here. So it gives here the timestamp of when it was issued. So in our next class, we're going to be seeing how we use the issued out to check the expiry dates. We're not going to do that right now. Okay, so we just want to see that we can log in. Can log in, and then we could do some basic this. Okay, so this information that is coming back is coming out as ID. So what I want to do now is I want to then store this information. Okay, so in the user to say request.user is equals to verified. Okay, so I want to change this now to the request. So remember, this is a middleware. So by the time it is going to the next method, which is get all items, it is going to have available in this request body that is going to be available in this get all items method. It's going to also have part of the request, not just the request.body, but also request.user will be available. And that is going to serve as the basis for which we would then be able to carry on other methods we want to do. So from there on, we could then just do about the same thing in our try catch block. So let me wrap all of this in a try catch block. Let me just wrap all of this in a try catch block. That's we can round up. So if there is some error, just do about the same thing. Okay, just do about the same thing. So and you can console.log the error if you want. See what error is. All right, so you can console.log the error if there's some error. So let's confirm this works. So basically, all I'm just doing here is, it's saying await has no effect on this. Oh, great. Okay, so if it has no effect, I think we can take that out. If it doesn't have any effect, great. So, all right. So we don't quite need it here. All right. So, all right. So let's give this a shot one more time. Clear. I'm going to log out, and then I'm going to log in. Okay. So denied. So I'm going to log in now. And logging in, it gives me a new token. Then with this, I want to try to log in. It confirms here, and this works. So I'm going to show you just a quick way that this request could be used. Okay, so I'm going to show you as a roundup to this class, just a quick way that this could be used. So I'm going to go over to the item controller for a create method. All right. So let's see here in item controller. Where do we have? So we have the request.body here. Okay. And now that we have created this authorization, I want to include it also here in this place. So only a user that is signed in can create an item. That is one. Then apart from the user who is signed in creating the item, I want the user to also, so let's first of all try that user that is not signed in. So let's log out generally. So we log out, and I'm going to just copy this and do a create here and try to see if I can create the item. So let's see. Okay, so only a user who is signed in can create the item. So that's the first start. Then the next is when this user is signed in, apart from creating this new item with the rec.body, I want you to also include, I wanted to also include that the user who is here is rec. The user for this is going to be the request.user. And remember that the request.user basically is how we're returning this. Okay, so we're returning this as this information rec.user. Okay, so we can use this here, and we can decide to use rec.user.id. Okay, so I think .id will get the ID out, rec.user.id. So this would then give the additional information here. However, now that we want to do that, we also need to include the user in the model. So I'm going to create the user now in the model. So I want to include the user in the model. And when you're including maybe a collection that already exists, or you want to include it afresh, you're not doing microservices, you have that the type is usually of schema. Okay, so we can say schema dot type dot object ID. Okay, and then you can then pass the reference that you want to use. So the reference is basically what name is it called? Okay, what name is it called? So here in this place, we are exporting it as user. So we will call it user. So that's just the name of the collection, how the collection is saved here. So, or item, yeah. So this is just to pass the arbitrary reference there, so user. So that's, so if we don't do this here, the username will not be saved. Okay, the user will be saved in the creation process. So with that, I think we go back to the item controller. Okay, so let me just open item controller, saved item, this and everything. So let's create a new item. So let's create a new item. So our validation should be in first, login. Okay, then we want to create a new item. So our validation should help us. So we need name. So let me just pick it from. Let me just pick something from here to save me time. So name, equal this name, description, category, price, and that all. I think a more recent one is. I think it's more recent. Okay, so it should be more recent. So let's just pick this the body raw JSON. All right. All right. So, all right. So let me change the name so that it doesn't do some unexpected. So let's just say sharp monitor. Okay. Okay. Sharp price value. And let's try to create this. All right. So as you can see now, it shows you the username now. Okay. So I didn't include the username in this place. All right. I didn't include the username in this place, but now it has picked it from the cookies. The middleware has picked it from the cookies. It has added it to the request. Now it is being stored. So at every point in time now, I can selectively choose if I want to look for an item where the user is the particular ID. Now I can do that. So that way, I can selectively choose what I want each user to see. So that is the purpose. So in this case here, you are not just authenticating in terms of login and everything, but you are then choosing what do you want the user to be able to access. So you can choose that, okay, I want the user to be able to access all or only the things that the user has created. So this is going to be the beginning of our authentication and authorization process. And apart from you having just the user ID, if you want to get more information about the user, we have a populate method, or I'm not going to go into that today, okay? I'm not going to go into that today. Probably in the next class, I'll introduce you to the populate method to be able to get more information from a particular user to build all the other things. So you could probably get the first name if you want the first name, last name, or email, whatever it is you want to get, you could get that. But that's the much that we could cover for today. Once again, I apologize for the technical hitch we had earlier, and to be sure that we followed thus far, I'll take questions. So if there are any questions, please just go ahead to ask me your questions. I appreciate the time you spent with me today. So I'll give the privilege of answering 2 questions. Okay, Delights, yes, you can go ahead with your question.
All right, good evening. Yeah, awesome class.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, my first question is for the try catch that we use. If we are already using if and else statements to see if there are any errors that will occur, why exactly are we still using try catch statements?
Okay, the errors that may occur are not limited to the errors that come from your code, but you could also have errors coming in from your connection string like MongoDB. So at that point, that error is not going to be handled. Okay. So the try catch block is just, okay, what if I have other errors beyond the scope of my code base? Then another thing is when you have an async, okay, when you have an async await methods, you have promises, and in some cases you might have issues with that. So that's the thing. So most times, once you have an async await, you want to throw in a try catch just to be able to catch any issues that comes with resolving those days. So, but generally, you might not need it on every occasion. Okay, might not need it on every occasion, but mostly when you have async await, you just want to throw in a try catch just for the benefit of escaping errors. I'm not sure you might treat, probably when we get to testing, maybe we'd look into handling errors gracefully, but I'm not too sure we might have, because we're already short on time. So let me take the next question. Benji, your hand was up next. Please just go with your question.
Yeah, good evening, guys. Sorry for coming late.
Yeah, good evening. Yeah.
It's obvious I missed a lot. Okay, yeah. There is another form of authentication called auth. That's the
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. So what's the difference
yeah.
between that and JWT? That's one. Then secondly, when you populated the item schema with a reference to the user ID, did you
Yeah.
explicitly state when you were saving that was called that the request ID should be saved on that field, or MongoDB is smart enough to actually detect that?
Okay, the MongoDB is smart enough to detect that, and then because you used we used the that ref, we used it in specifying the name of the collection that it should be in. So MongoDB is smart enough to know that, okay, I should look in collections user, okay, because when we are creating a model, we define the model and we give it the name. So that name is the reference. So that's let me share that screen again. So that's basically what MongoDB is using to detect that. Okay, so yeah. Then I didn't get your first question. I'm not sure I remember your first question. Could you go over it again?
The difference between AAuth and JWT.
Okay. The thing is, all of these are basically packages. Okay, all of these are basically packages, and if you go to npm, you'll find like 1001 packages for the same functionality. So all of these are packages, and they basically do similar things. However, you then have some special like setups that they move beyond being packages to being a professional way, or let's say a more thorough way of how things are handled. So I think the one I would be particular about is OAuth. So you have OAuth, and in OAuth, you are looking at authentication using packages, using other different avenues, like you could use your Google, you could use your Twitter to authenticate, you could use. So if you are signed in your Twitter, all you just need to do is accept, whatever, and they would then do the whole connection, everything. So basically, what the package is doing is the package is trying to, save you the stress of going through the whole process of this. It's just like joy validation. Joy validation saves us the stress of having to specify that the line. Okay, just imagine now that I have to write like maybe 40 lines of code just because I need to specify for all the regex that I want to, or I need to specify for all the times that the username or user field must not be empty. So those packages have lumped in together most of the solutions that you want, and exposed some way that you can use them, some functions or some methods that you can use. So that's just what all these packages do. So there won't be much difference in how you use them, but the main thing is each one of them comes with their own pattern in how you use them. So you just go to documentation, see if it's what you want, and make use of them. Okay, I'll take one last person. I think Kinejiku, yes, you could ask a question. So we'll wrap up for today.
Okay, good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
The question I have is, okay, I am a front-end developer. So basically, when we are doing authentication, we normally pass the token as in the authorization or auth token and this thing. But
yes,
here now I'm saying that you pass it through cookies. And secondly, I noticed that after passing it through cookies, when you sent a new request to authorize with the token, you didn't need to like set the cookies again. So I just want to understand how it works. Is it that the browser or this automatically adds the cookie?
Okay. Now, that's going to be the basis of our next class. I'm going to teach that in detail, so please don't mix the next class. So generally, how cookies works is that when you don't want the front end to have to go through the stress of setting up receiving the token and being the one to manually set it up, you use cookies. So cookies is an automatic process. Once you accept, the cookies is set up. In fact, there's no, once you can set it up, like for instance now, if you notice, immediately I click the login function, it's automatically set up. So for cases where the front end doesn't know how to handle it, or you are not dealing with something that you need to accept, then you use cookies. So that's why if you notice, when you go to sites that say cookies, once you click accept, that set cookie method is instantly initiated. At that point, the browser stores whatever information it wants to store in the cookies. So that's how cookies work. Okay. Then in the next class, I'm going to show you sections. What you're talking about is you could send the token to the front end as a response, and then the front end could receive the token as a response and decide how they want to use it. And if we will be looking at refresh tokens, when we are using refresh tokens, you cannot set it manually, or you don't set it manually like cookies. Okay, so for the next class, we're going to be using this other method. So this method is when you're dealing with cookies. Then the next method we look at when you're dealing with sessions and when you're dealing with that. And believe you me, it's going to be an interesting class. We're using refresh tokens, and it's high level information, to be honest. So you don't want to miss out on that. So I'll see you guys in the next class. Please do well to go over this video again, practice with it. I'll try to push all that I've done so far to the Google Drive, so that we'll be able to take off from there. So I think that'll be all from me. Let's just hand over to Prosper in case he has some very important information to share across to us. I'll see you guys in the next class. Take care of yourselves.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Yeah, so no information from me. So let's just continue on our own and stuff. So we've spent 23 minutes on top of our time already. So yeah, have a good rest of the day. Bye, guys.